My name is Courtney Ellison, and I'm 17 years old. People assume the hardest year of a girl's life is when she turns 18. Graduation, college decisions, the feeling that the world is suddenly too big and too fast. For me, the hardest year came much earlier. When I was 9, my mother died, and the world shrank into something quiet and hollow. For 3 years, it was just Dad and me. Just us. Just silence and survival and late-night dinners reheated from plastic supermarket trays. Dad worked double shifts at the automotive plant, smelling faintly of oil and cold metal when he came home, but he always tried. He'd sit beside me at our wobbly kitchen table with a tired smile, asking about school, helping me with homework, even when his hands were shaking from exhaustion. He was my whole world, and for a long time I was his. That's why I remember the exact moment he said the sentence that would unravel everything. Courtney, I've been seeing someone. We were having our usual Friday burger night, the air warm with the smell of grilled onions and ketchup. Dad wouldn't quite look at me. That was my first warning. Her name is Victoria, he continued, and she has a daughter about your age. I think you'll really like them. Something knotted inside my chest. Not jealousy, but fear. A kind of fear you can't explain to someone who's never had to share a parent after losing the other one. I forced a smile. That's great, Dad. They'll be coming over for dinner tomorrow, he added gently. I want you to help me make them feel welcome. Okay, I said. I lied. I didn't feel okay at all. When Victoria and her daughter Ashley arrived the next evening, everything looked perfectly rehearsed. Victoria stood in our doorway with a bright smile, glossy hair, pearl earrings, the kind of woman who seemed to choose her words as carefully as her outfits. Ashley, meanwhile, hovered behind her, quiet, polite, studying everything with nervous eyes. You have a lovely home, Robert, Victoria said, gliding in like she belonged there. And your daughter, she's beautiful, so polite. Dad beamed with pride. Courtney's always been at the top of her class. A flicker passed through Victoria's expression, so fast I almost thought I imagined it. Not quite envy, not quite annoyance, something sharper. Ashley received her mother's hand on her shoulder like a weight, not a comfort. She's won 3 regional math competitions already, Victoria announced. Ashley looked down. Mom, it's not a competition. Victoria laughed politely. Of course not, sweetie. I'm just proud of you. The laugh didn't reach her eyes. 6 months later, Victoria and Dad were married. And just like that, they moved into our house in Riverside. At first, everything seemed smooth, too smooth. Victoria cooked elaborate dinners, rearranged furniture, brought scented candles that made every room smell like someone else's home. Dad was happy, and I wanted so badly to keep it that way. Ashley and I shared a room. We weren't friends, not really, but she was soft-spoken and considerate, folding her clothes neatly, keeping to her side of the room, apologizing when her alarm accidentally went off early. Your dad seems really nice, she said one night as we got ready for bed. He is, I replied quietly. He's the best. Ashley hesitated. My dad left when I was little. I barely remember him. I softened. I'm sorry, I said. My mom died when I was 9. I know, she whispered. Mom says, we shouldn't bring it up. She thinks it might upset you. I frowned. It's part of me. I don't mind when people talk about her. Ashley nodded, as if storing that detail like a precious secret. But things began shifting the longer Victoria lived with us. It was small at first. How you load the dishwasher is inefficient, Courtney. These towels aren't folded properly. That outfit doesn't flatter you. Each comment was disguised as helpful, polite, motherly, but there was something icy beneath them, something that chipped away at my sense of belonging. Dad tried to intervene when he could, but he was working even more overtime by then. Most nights, he came home too exhausted to notice how quiet I'd become. But the moment I realized something was deeply, seriously wrong came on an ordinary Tuesday evening. Dad, I said softly, finding him alone. Victoria threw away the bracelet Mom made for me. He rubbed his face with shaking hands. Are you sure? Maybe it just got misplaced. I saw her put it in the trash, I whispered. She said it was too worn out. Dad swallowed hard. I'll talk to her, sweetheart. But his voice was tired. Tired men don't win arguments, not against someone like Victoria. By the time I turned 16, Victoria had transformed from a gracious new wife into the silent ruler of our home. Everything revolved around Ashley, her needs, her schedule, her achievements. Courtney, why can't you be more like Ashley? She studies without being told. She helps around the house. She doesn't talk back. It wasn't true, not really. Ashley and I were both good students. But my GPA was slightly higher. I always had straight A's. and Victoria knew it. She watched the report cards like a hawk, her smile twitching each time mine shined brighter than Ashley's. Ashley never bragged. If anything, she looked ashamed whenever her mother compared us. Sometimes I'd catch her glancing at me across the dinner table with quiet apology in her eyes. My senior year, everything accelerated. I threw myself into scholarship applications, typing quietly at night after finishing homework and chores. The glow of the computer screen became my only witness. Sometimes I felt someone watching me from the hallway. Victoria, standing just out of sight, just close enough to hear me typing, just long enough to leave a chill in the air. Ashley noticed, too. "You okay?" she whispered one morning as we waited for the school bus. "Yeah," I lied. But the truth was, the house was changing. The air felt tight. Every wall felt thinner, like something was building, a pressure, a storm, waiting for the exact wrong moment to break open. And none of us knew yet that it would. Not even me. By spring of senior year, everyone at Riverside High was talking about one thing: the Hamilton Academic Excellence Scholarship. One student, full ride, any state university, life-changing. Both Ashley and I applied. Dad kept telling people he was proud of both his girls, even though I could see the exhaustion lurking behind his smile. Victoria, meanwhile, treated the scholarship like a pageant she planned to win through her daughter. Except Ashley wasn't playing along. At Olive Garden one Friday night, the tension bubbled under our table like the endless baskets of breadsticks. "You both have a real shot at this," Dad said warmly, squeezing both our shoulders. "I'm proud of you." Ashley smiled shyly. I smiled back. Victoria's expression stayed perfectly frozen, her voice syrupy sweet. "Ashley has been preparing for years," she said, lifting her wine glass. "Her math competition wins alone." "Mom, stop," Ashley murmured, cheeks reddening. Victoria ignored her. "It's obvious she's the strongest candidate." Dad cleared his throat. "Let's not turn this into a competition." The irony wasn't lost on me. Victoria had been turning everything into a competition since the day she moved in. A week later, while I was at lunch with my friend Natalie, she nudged me hard enough to spill my grape juice. "What are you always typing at night?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. "Every time I call, I hear keys clicking like you're writing a novel." "Scholarship essays," I told her. "If I want to go to college, I need financial help." She winced. "And how's it going with the wicked stepmother?" I laughed softly. It wasn't really funny, but laughter was easier than telling the truth. "Same as always," I said. "Everything's about precious Ashley." "And Ashley? Is she, your classic blonde villain minion?" "No," I sighed. "She's embarrassed, honestly. She hates how her mom acts." Natalie stared. "Girl, that's weirdly sad." It was. Because deep down I knew Ashley wasn't the problem. Her mother was. The scholarship results were announced on a rainy Wednesday morning. A staff aide came to my classroom, whispered something to my teacher, then gestured for me to follow. My hands shook all the way to Principal Henderson's office. When I entered, she was smiling wide, the kind of smile you don't fake. "Congratulations, Courtney," she said warmly. "You've been awarded the Hamilton Scholarship." For a moment, I didn't breathe. I didn't move. It felt like someone pressed pause on my entire life. "Really?" I whispered. "Really," she laughed. "Your essay on resilience was exceptional." I walked back through the hallway in a fog of disbelief. Students blurred into indistinct shapes. Lockers looked brighter than usual. Even the rain outside sounded softer, like it belonged in a movie. I couldn't wait to tell Dad. But dread curled inside me like smoke. Victoria. Her reaction. It was inevitable. That night at dinner, my heart pounded as I took a breath. "I got the Hamilton Scholarship," I said, trying not to sound too excited. "Full tuition. Anywhere in the state." Dad nearly knocked over his chair, rushing to hug me. "That's amazing, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." Ashley smiled, genuine, warm, relieved. "Congratulations, Courtney. You really deserved it." Only one person remained motionless. Victoria. She didn't blink, didn't smile, didn't speak. Finally, she said, voice cold, "And Ashley, did they announce a runner-up?" Ashley's face flushed bright red. "Mom, please stop." "No," I said softly. "They didn't." Victoria's eyes darkened. "That scholarship was meant for students who truly need it. Ashley doesn't have a father contributing to her education." Dad stiffened. "Victoria?" "No," she snapped. "Let's be honest. Courtney just played on the committee's emotions with sob stories about her dead mother." The world went silent. My fork fell from my hand. Dad's voice shook with rage. "That is enough. Apologize right now." "I will not apologize for defending my daughter," Victoria hissed, pushing back her chair. Ashley stood abruptly. No, Mom, you owe Courtney an apology. That was cruel. Victoria's jaw twitched. Then she grabbed her purse, turned sharply, and stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. The three of us stayed at the table, frozen in a heavy, suffocating silence. Dad reached across the table and squeezed my hand silently. Ashley stared at her plate, eyes glossy with shame. I didn't know it yet, but that dinner was the turning point, the moment the match hit the fuse. 2 days later, I came home to an empty, quiet house. Or so I thought. Dad was still at work. Ashley was at chess club. But Victoria, she was waiting for me. She stood at the bottom of the staircase like a statue. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect smile, carved from ice. "We need to talk about the scholarship," she said. My stomach dropped. "There's nothing to talk about," I answered carefully. "I applied. I won. You need to decline it." I stared at her. I thought she was joking. "What? No. You have a father," she said slowly, like she was lecturing a child. "Ashley has only me. That scholarship was her ticket out." "That's not my fault," I replied before I could stop myself. Something flickered in her eyes. A crack, a fracture, something dangerous waking up. "Not your problem," she whispered. "Nothing ever is." I stepped sideways. "I'm going to my room." That was when her hand shot out, nails digging into my arm. "You will do as I say. Let go of me." Her grip tightened. And in her eyes, in a single horrifying second, I saw it. The rage. The jealousy. The certainty that my existence had stolen something from her. Ashley's future. Dad's love. Her control. Everything. The storm was no longer building. It had arrived. Victoria's grip tightened on my arm until her nails carved half-moon indents into my skin. For a moment, the house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator buzzing, the clock ticking on the wall, my own breath trembling. "Call the committee tomorrow," she ordered, voice too calm to be sane. "Tell them you're declining. Tell them you've chosen community college instead. Ashley will take the scholarship." "No," I said, pulling back. "I earned it." Her face twisted. For the first time since she'd entered our lives, she stopped pretending. The perfect smile vanished, and what surfaced underneath was raw, bitter resentment. "You have everything handed to you," she hissed. "A father who pays, a home that wasn't yours to begin with. Ashley only has me, and I gave up everything for her." I stepped back, pulse racing. "Victoria, stop. I'm not taking anything from Ashley." "You took my husband's attention," she snapped. "You took my place in this house from the moment I arrived. And now you're taking my daughter's future too?" "That's not true." My voice shook. "Ashley doesn't even want you fighting her battles." That did it. Something inside her snapped like a wire pulled too tight. "Ungrateful little," she spat, lunging toward me. I stumbled back, hitting the wall hard. My shoulder throbbed. Her face was inches from mine, her breath hot and sour with rage. "Everything in this house is about you," she screamed. "Your mother dying, your perfect grades, your father doing anything you want." "Let me go!" I shoved her back instinctively, just a desperate attempt to free myself. She froze. Then, slowly, deliberately, she reached for the decorative crystal vase sitting on the hallway table. Her sister had gifted it at her wedding. I'd seen her dust it every morning like it was a crown jewel. She lifted it with both hands. For the first time in my life, I felt real, physical fear. Fear that stopped thought. Fear that iced the blood in my veins. "Victoria, don't—" But she wasn't listening, or maybe she was beyond listening. "You don't get to take one more thing from us," she whispered, voice shaking with a hatred that didn't sound human. She swung. The world shattered. Pain exploded across my skull. I saw white, then black, then nothing at all. I woke to the rhythmic beeping of hospital monitors. The ceiling was too white. The lights were too bright. Everything hurt. "Courtney?" Dad's voice cracked beside me. I blinked slowly, vision blurry, tears stinging the corners of my eyes. Dad's face was swollen and blotchy from crying. He looked older, years older, than he had just days earlier. "What happened?" I croaked. He grabbed my hand carefully, terrified of hurting me. "Ashley found you," he whispered, voice trembling. "Lying at the bottom of the stairs, unconscious, she called 911. They brought you here." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "Victoria?" "In custody," Dad said, jaw tight. "Ashley told the police everything." "Everything?" My voice cracked. Dad nodded. "About how Victoria treated you for years. The scholarship incident. What she heard when she came home early. The doctors found bruises on your arms. Defensive bruises." My chest tightened. Defensive. Meaning I had tried to protect myself. A tear slipped down Dad's cheek. "I should have seen it," he whispered. "I should have protected you." I couldn't speak. I wanted to tell him it wasn't his fault, but the words stuck in my throat. The next day, a police detective named Officer Brooks came in, a woman with a calm face, steady voice, and a notepad she handled like it was an extension of her hand. "Courtney, I'm glad to see you're awake," she said gently. "I need to ask you some questions about what happened." I nodded. "Can you tell me about your relationship with your stepmother?" she began. "It was complicated," I said slowly. "She always favored Ashley. She criticized everything I did." "Did she ever become physically aggressive before?" "No," I whispered. "Not like this. But she watched me closely. She'd make comments, throw things away. She told me I wasn't good enough." Officer Brooks nodded, writing quietly. "Ashley mentioned her mother was upset about a scholarship." "The Hamilton Scholarship," I said. "She wanted me to decline it, so Ashley could have it instead." "And when you refused?" "She lost control," I whispered. "She grabbed me, called me selfish. Then she—" I winced as pain radiated through my head. Officer Brooks softened her voice. "That's enough for now." But the truth lingered in the air like smoke. Victoria had wanted to destroy the one thing she couldn't control, my future. A few days later, Ashley came into my hospital room carrying a paper cup of hot chocolate. She looked smaller than I remembered, softer, younger, like someone who had been holding up walls for years and finally let them crack. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, sitting beside my bed. "It's not your fault," I told her, my voice gentle. "I should have said something sooner," she choked. She was hurting me too. Not physically, but pushing me, comparing us, making me feel like I was only worth something if I beat you." I reached for her hand. "Ashley, you saved my life." She nodded, tears pooling in her eyes. "I couldn't let her hurt you anymore." That was the moment I realized Ashley wasn't just a stepsister. She was a survivor of her mother, just like I was. The court hearings moved faster than any of us expected. Victoria's lawyer tried everything, blamed stress, blamed exhaustion, blamed me for provoking her. But the medical reports were undeniable. The bruises, the angle of impact, the shape of the crystal vase, and Ashley's testimony. The courtroom fell silent when she spoke. "My mother has been emotionally abusive for years," Ashley said, voice shaking but clear. "She pressured me to compete with Courtney. She hated that Courtney was succeeding. And she told me she wished Courtney had never come into our lives." Even the judge looked moved. Victoria broke down, sobbing, begging, insisting she had lost her temper, that she had never meant to cause harm. But the judge's face stayed hard. "Mrs. Stevens," he said, "your actions were violent, deliberate, and premeditated. This court cannot overlook such an assault, especially against a child in your care." Victoria's sentence was delivered quietly, decisively. 3 years in prison. Ashley cried silently. Dad held my hand, and I tried to breathe through the weight lifting off my chest. The house we returned to felt different, quieter, still bruised, but finally honest. Dad filed for divorce immediately. He swore to never let something like this happen again. For the first time in years, I believed him. Recovery was slow. Some days I woke up and forgot about the attack for a few blissful seconds, until the headache pulsed or a bruise flared when I moved too fast. Other days, the memories came back in sharp fragments. The vase, the scream, the moment everything went black. But every day Ashley was there. She'd sit beside me with her notebook, working silently on chess puzzles or math problems while I rested. She never pushed conversation. She didn't tiptoe around me either. She simply stayed. It was the first time I realized how lonely she must have been all these years, trying to live under a mother who measured her worth by trophies and comparison charts. One afternoon, Mrs. Thompson, my guidance counselor, visited me at the hospital. The moment she walked in, carrying a tote bag of snacks and tissues, guilt washed over me. "Courtney," she said softly, "why didn't you come to me?" I stared down at my hands. "I didn't think anyone would believe me." "Oh, sweetheart," her voice broke. "We would have. I would have." She cleared her throat gently. "I also wanted to tell you, the Hamilton committee knows what happened. They were horrified. But your scholarship, it's still yours." Relief loosened my shoulders. "And," she added with a small smile, "they've decided to award a second scholarship this year." My eyes widened. "Ashley?" She impressed them with her courage, standing up for you, testifying. That's the kind of character they want to support. For the first time since the attack, genuine warmth bloomed in my chest. "Thank you," I whispered. Mrs. Thompson squeezed my hand. "Both of you deserve a chance at a future free from all this." Returning to school after the hospital felt surreal. People stared, whispered. Some looked at me with pity, others with awe, like I had survived something impossible. You're basically famous, Natalie said, linking her arm with mine. People are literally talking about you everywhere. I sighed, not the fame I wanted. But are you okay? She asked more softly. I thought about it. The nightmares, the ache in my ribs, the fear that still curled in unexpected moments. I'm getting there, I said honestly. Natalie nodded. And Ashley? You two are like real sisters now? We're trying, I said. Trauma forces you into honesty. And it had, in the worst possible way. Victoria was sentenced to 3 years. Dad filed for divorce. The house felt less like a battlefield and more like a place where healing could begin. But the biggest change wasn't the legal outcome, it was Ashley. She was no longer the quiet, nervous girl who flinched at her mother's voice. She was steadier, stronger. She stood straighter, laughed more easily, joined school clubs she had never dared try before. One evening, as we packed our rooms in preparation for moving to a new house, Dad paused at my doorway. His hand shook slightly as he reached for my shoulder. I want to apologize, he said, voice raw. I should have seen what was happening. I should have protected you better. Dad, I whispered, you couldn't have known. I think part of me did know, he admitted, guilt twisting his features. But I was so scared of being alone again. I ignored things I shouldn't have. I wrapped my arms around him carefully. We're moving forward now. That's what matters. Ashley, standing nearby with a box of books in her arms, nodded quietly. It matters a lot. We moved to a modest but bright new house near Riverside State University, the place where Ashley and I would be starting college together. Never thought I'd be going to college with you, Ashley said as we unpacked in our dorm. I laughed softly. Same. She hesitated, then said something that stayed with me. Mom spent years trying to make me compete with you, but she never asked what I wanted. So what do you want? I asked. She smiled, genuinely this time. To study what I love, without pressure, without someone telling me who I should be. You're already doing that, I said. And she was. Dad visited every other weekend. He brought homemade lasagna, bags of snacks, and updates about the bowling league he'd joined to meet more people. Eventually, he started dating again. A kind, gentle woman named Linda who treated both Ashley and me with simple, genuine warmth. Nothing like Victoria. Ashley warmed up to her almost immediately. We all agreed. This time, we were taking it slow. No more forcing a family. No more ignoring red flags. Just kindness. Just honesty. Just healing. As for me, I chose to major in social work. What happened with Victoria opened my eyes to something I couldn't unsee. The quiet, hidden suffering so many kids endure behind closed doors. Kids who think no one would believe them. Kids who think they have to survive alone. I didn't want anyone else to feel like I had. I wanted to be the person who listens, who sees, who protects, who believes. Every once in a while, I think about Victoria. Not with fear, not with anger, just distance. She's somewhere in a prison cell, serving time for choices she made, long before that crystal vase ever hit me. I don't know if she regrets it. I don't know if she misses Ashley. I don't know if she'll ever change. I stopped needing the answers, because what she tried to destroy, we rebuilt. Stronger, more honest, more real. Ashley and I forged a bond born not from forced sisterhood, but from survival. From truth, from choosing each other. The scholarship that almost tore us apart ended up saving both our futures, exposing the truth, ending the silence, giving us a chance to breathe again. Sometimes, late at night, I walk across campus and think about the girl I was before all of this, the girl who had learned to shrink herself so others wouldn't feel threatened, the girl who thought suffering quietly was the only way to keep peace. I'm not that girl anymore. I survived. I grew. I learned who I am when the world collapses and who I can become when I rebuild. So if you're listening to this, wondering if someone is trying to dim your light, wondering if you're allowed to take up space, to want things, to succeed, here's what I know now. Your worth isn't defined by someone else's jealousy. Your achievements aren't something to apologize for, and sometimes the family you build is stronger than the family you're born into. That's my story.